Hello, my name is Anatoly Motkin and I'm president of StrategEast Center for a New Economy. Today, our StrategEast.Live panel discussion is dedicated to the AbrahamAccords as an opportunity for the transformation of Central Asia and Azerbaijan. As many of you know, the 2020's normalization agreement between Israel and the United Arab Emirates has kickstarted tourism and a number of significant investment agreements in a remarkably short period of time. But the opportunity is there for so much more beyond the borders of these two countries. This new relationship has the potential for using the combined economic know-how and innovative mindset to work together by implementing large-scale development projects in the majority of Muslim post-Soviet countries in Central Asia and Azerbaijan. The benefits for both Israel and Emirates, as well as the potential for those countries, could be enormous. Today, we will discuss such opportunities with our distinguished speakers. First, let me introduce Ambassador Michael Lotem, Director, Economic Department of Asia and CIS in the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and Sawsan Hasson, who leads the Middle East Economic Relations Department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Israel. Filip Stoyanovich, the Chief of Party at USAID Future Growth Initiative for Central Asia, and Mansur Mamadjanov, International Operations Manager of the Investment and Export Office of IT Park in Uzbekistan. So the first question would be, about Israel and United Arab Emirates, and both countries are separately currently carrying out a number of humanitarian projects in the countries of Central Asia and Azerbaijan. Could joining forces in working on these projects provide significant synergy in helping the region? And this question I would be happy to address to Sawsan to hear your perspective.
Thank you very much, Anatoly, for the question. Thank you for hosting us in this event. I would refer first to the bilateral relation between the two states. Since the establishments and signing actually the agreements, both states are establishing the bilateral ties on different perspectives, mainly on economic. The focus is very strong on economic relationships, and that includes also tens of agreements that we are negotiating now together. Many of them were signed, and we are about to sign the rest of them that actually will focus on establishing the right infrastructure, the legal infrastructure for businesses and for economic organizations to work together. That definitely will also later on will help to assist trilateral cooperation between Israel and United Emirates in Asia or in Africa, where the perspective is to work together on different fields. Some of them will be mainly, because this is a big interest of United Arab Emirates and Israel, is food safety. But also on other fields that will include IT, advanced technologies, on energy, as well on water. And we are looking forward to, first of all, to make the right bilateral agreements and the basic ones. And later on, I believe that the trilateral ones will come. It's also a demand of what we see on the fields, what the companies will be interested in, and the right organizations in both countries. Thank you.
Thank you, and I would address the same question to Ambassador Lotem to ask from your perspective. You have served as an Israeli ambassador to Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan and also to Azerbaijan. You know this region very well. So I would be happy to first to hear from you what is the Israeli Mashav and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or Israel in general projects developed in the region, and what are the new opportunities thanks to the AbrahamAccords that Israel could use in the region.
Morning, and thank you for hosting me. Can you hear me well? Okay. Mashav has been active in Central Asia and the Caucasus for the last 3 decades in different areas. Water, agriculture, health and medicine, empowering women, so many different areas of activities, sometimes on a bilateral, simply bilateral level, but in many cases, of course, with USAID or other European organizations. Some of them, I mean, and also some UN. So definitely, Mashav has a broad record and experience in working with third parties. We are also in talks now for a few years with the Russians in working in Central Asia. So definitely there is a wish, there is an experience. And if we can join forces with UAE in doing this, that will only enrich all the participants in this, on this road. Just to mention one more topic that came up very strongly lately, alternative energy. There's a common ground here because the Gulf states economies is very much based on oil and gas. In Central Asia, the same, and all understand the need to diversify and move to diversify economy, but also to diversify the the origin of the energy. So definitely there is much we can do on this as well.
Thank you for this. And I would like to address the next question to Filip Stoyanovich. From your perspective as a chief of USAID programs in Central Asia, what do you think, what could be the benefit of Israeli and Emirati investment in developing the digital economy in the region? And what could be how USAID could join or collaborate with these two countries in this perspective?
So thanks, Anatoly. My pleasure to be on this panel of a very interesting topic, and we've read about the Abraham Fund and the opportunities that it could present to our region. We have talked about this to make a connection. So we're on the ground, so I can talk about the grassroots level. Obviously, USAID is a much more macro organizations. We're a project, we're on the ground, and we have initiated some activities regionally in Central Asia, plus Afghanistan in some areas. Sorry. A couple of the areas that were mentioned, food processing and beverages, we're in that, connecting to agriculture, and IT, of course. I think the benefit of working with Israel and UAE is tremendous. First of all, the startup ecosystem experience, the digital transformation, the global companies that come out of there, all that experience, investments, and mentorship that can be received from those countries is tremendous. UAE in general, Dubai is a target market for this region because it's very close. I think all of them have direct flights. It's a 4 or 5 hour flight. So it's a great opportunity in that sense as well. So I would take it from there. It's anything and everything. This region is, in a strategic position between China, Russia, Afghanistan, then Pakistan, etc. So we are working on different aspects of digital transformation. Also, we're working in kind of the free economic zone areas to improve the ease of trade between the countries. We're doing a pilot right now in Uzbekistan, in Termez. We have initiated work with the startup ecosystems in all of the countries. We're very happy. We're working with IT Park actually in Uzbekistan on training women entrepreneurs and business angels. We have initiated kind of a coordinated effort between projects and donors in Turkmenistan, initiating the startup ecosystem there. We're talking to people in Tajikistan, and in Kazakhstan, we're also working with the most incubator, regionally kind of engaging everybody into a regional ecosystem. So we're building on that and pushing forward, but having somebody like Israel and UAE to join our efforts would be obviously tremendous and game-changing with the experiences and the global networks they have. So that's my kind of first take on that.
Thank you, Filip. And to you, Mansur, You are in Tashkent and you are working in IT Park, which is actually the center of digital development in Uzbekistan. And what do you think could be the advantage for you, for Uzbekistan or for Central Asia in being in Israel and the Emirates being engaged in digital development there, and what level today we know that there is a project 1 million Muslim coders in Dubai, and I know that you have a program 1 million Uzbek coders in Uzbekistan, and what is the interaction between those programs, and to what degree Israel is engaged these days in Uzbekistan in digital development there, and what would you expect from Israel to contribute to digital development in the country?
Thank you. Thank you for giving the floor to discuss this. Well, first of all, as we understand that the Abraham Fund is coordinated by the Israel Arabic partners of ours and the American funds to be a benchmark for the rest of the IT development world in terms of the investment and the development of the IT ecosystem around the world, specifically for the Central Asian regions. Concerning the Uzbek million programs that we have, it means that we adapted the programs of our Arabic Emirates colleagues. We had an agreement with them upon which we can use their materials. We adapted them to Uzbek language and launched our own operations that I mentioned, 1 million Uzbek coders, which I want to announce to you. We have around 2,250,000 graduates at the moment, and we are planning to provide them for our local markets as that we are facing right now. This long-lasting issue that not only Uzbekistan but the rest of the Central Asia has in its roots since 2002 probably, and we still have a large struggle of finding a superior and highly trained specialists. For example, senior programmers and developers are very few on our market, and companies significantly fighting with each other to having some of them that then by adding them into the fold into their portfolio of the crew, going to the American markets, European markets as an outsourcing and outstaffing destination point, rather than going to the India or Eastern Europe or Brazil, Mexico, or any other location. So basically that means that the support of, first of all, our Arabic partners means that we can copy and adopt the best strategies to eliminate the brain drain problem by training our own specialists and then accomplishing our own tasks and visions that we have through education. Secondly, in terms of the USAID assistance, we are grateful for their interest and our mutual projects that we are running, specifically in terms of the females entrepreneurship programs that recently graduated on our basis. It is called Tumarestek. Once again, we pay tribute to USAID for their assistance and the possibility of running such kind of projects. We have more than 60 startups being incubated on that platform, and we are successfully matching them with investors and other B2B companies for their international and domestic development. In terms of the Israel, I would say that right now, as one of the top tier IT countries, it is quite crucial for us to get a link with the most advanced Israeli incubator centers and funds and communicate with them in terms of how we can support each other and receive support in terms of the master classes, some mentorship courses, participation in our incubation and acceleration programs. So basically it all narrows down to two main pillars. First of all is assistance in intellectual support and training. And second one is the funding of most prominent startups which we actually are considering right now in doing with American partners, Israeli partners, and partners from the Emirates as well. So I believe by my answer, I managed to just swiftly give you a breakdown of what we are doing and what we see our potential collaboration. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
If I may just add to what Mansur was saying, sorry to interrupt, Anatoly, but I like to interrupt, I apologize. Mansur presented great, and I think just an additional thing from targeted to Israel and UAE is the angel network type of activities that needs to be grown in Uzbekistan and in other countries, and the VC component. I mean, those obviously are vital to the ecosystem and the mentorship. So the mentorship is in levels. You know, you have a mentorship within your city, you have a mentorship in another country in your region, and then you have international mentorship from different hubs around the world. So these are crucial to the development of the startups, the ecosystem in the whole region. So that's just an addition that I took a group of IT startups to Israel and Jordan a long time ago. So I've seen physically I've seen these things, and it's, it's a tremendous what you've done, and also Jordan has done. So these are examples that need to be seen and implemented. Thanks.
And Anatoly, if I also may please refer to what Filip and Mansur just mentioned before, I will start with the Abraham Fund. It was part of the plan of the previous administration in the United States. Right now they're looking into it, but what has been developed since we signed the agreement is a real interest of local governmental funds from United Arab Emirates in Israeli companies investing in different sectors. And specifically talking about the high-tech startups and high-tech companies, there is a strong interest to support these companies from a startup level to scale-up level, to attract them to invest in United Arab Emirates, to train their own engineers and their own startups, to produce, to have a line of production, local production, and to later on to be part of a global trade system. So this is definitely one of the things that we are now looking into it. I would like to mention, for example, Hub 71 and other organizations and institutions both in Abu Dhabi and in Dubai, but not only. I would like also to mention Ras Al Khaimah and other emirates that are willing to go into these kind of engagements with Israeli startups. Something else I would like to refer to, and I think this would be a great opportunity for a regional cooperation. It's Expo later this year in Dubai in October. There are thematic weeks, and this is an excellent opportunity for the companies to meet and to discuss options of B2B, trilaterals, and even more than that. Something that Ambassador Lotem mentioned, and I would like also to add, we participated, our head of Mashav division participated in DIHAD, international event about international AIDS that happened earlier this year in the United Arab Emirates, and there we have discussed also mainly the cooperation about food safety, but other topics that you have mentioned here, and I believe that this will be a good start for the kind of cooperation that we're looking into and we're discussing in this meeting.
Hey, thank you, Son, for this. But again, the next question would be also addressed to you. And the question is very simple. The incentive for this public event was assumption that there is an ambition from the Arab Emirates to be more influential globally, and also from the assumption that for Israel to have more influence in other countries, like it was thanks to the Mashav activity in Africa. We have a lot of friends, Israel have a lot of friends in Africa. And my assumption was that assisting to Central Asian countries and Azerbaijan in developing the digital economy, and it's something that is expected from Israel as a startup nation to be able to perform there, would also develop special relations and as a call trilateral special relations between Israel, United Arab Emirates, and the region with what we call the moderate Muslim states. The question is, does Israel have this ambition to be influential there, to assist there, and to use the digital abilities and digital skills as a soft power, as a political but also economical soft power in the region.
Okay, allow me to refer to this question from another perspective, and I'm sure that Ambassador Lotem will elaborate more about Central Asia. My previous mission abroad was in Athens, and there I was lucky to be part of the trilateral cooperation that started between Israel, Cyprus, and Athens. Later on, we had regional cooperation that developed to be the EMGF, as we call it, the Eastern Mediterranean Gas Forum, based in Cairo, and we just recently have a meeting of our 4 ministers of foreign affairs in Cyprus, the Emirati minister, the Israeli, the Cypriot, and the Greek. So definitely Israel is looking into this kind of, we call it geometric cooperations. We do believe that by such kind of regional cooperations, we can contribute to the people of the region. Each country has its own benefits and its own strong fields which it can contribute to others. And I do personally also believe in such kind of regional frames. What I would like to mention, but is that our relation with United Arab Emirates, diplomatic relation, is very new. And in order to build upon it, all these great regional cooperations, we must have the strong bilateral ties first. And this is what we are doing now. A few months after we signed the peace agreement, we are very advanced in most of the economic fields. By regulatory and agreements and cooperations between the relevant organizations, a process of having a joint bilateral business council is being very advanced. There is a chamber of commerce, a bilateral one, and more and more delegations are in the pipe to strengthen this kind of ties. So definitely when the bilateral one will be well established, we will be more willing than to have the trilateral ones and beyond that.
Thank you for this. And if I understand, just a short follow-up, do I understand correctly that the Abraham Fund is still a project? It's not something been implemented because it was planned and drafted in course of the previous administration, and now it's on hold meanwhile?
You can say that, yes.
I see. Thank you.
Just to mention on this as well, there was in a discussion between our head of state and our prime minister and the head of state in the United Arab Emirates that was discussed to have a fund of $10 billion, investing in Israeli strategic infrastructure. And this is also an ongoing discussion between the two states, looking into different fields of cooperation on it.
Thank you. Thank you. Ambassador Lotem, now from your perspective and your experience in the region, do you think what could be the first, is it viable as an idea? A collaboration between Israel and Emirates on developing third countries, or it just a project? Do we have some preliminary or previous examples of successful collaboration between Mashav and other aid agencies or development agencies in developing third countries?
I said earlier, we definitely have, but I think we are discussing here a few issues, not one. Just touch on them briefly. One is Filip mentioned, as well as Mansur, the IT and innovation and so on, startups. That's only as part of the picture, of course. If you want a part of the ecosystem, I think what should be grown in Central Asia and the Caucasus is not only the startups, but the government understanding and willingness to put money and resources in supporting this. Not less important, the industry. There is no sense of growing startups community if you don't have the local clients, unless you think that people will you will have developers and programmers, and eventually they will go abroad because they will earn simply better money abroad. And of course, Filip mentioned finance. Risk-taking is also a part of culture. I'm not saying, I deal also with East Asia. Between Israel and East Asia, there are many differences in risk-taking, and VC is risk-taking. So if you want to develop the ecosystem, you need to work on many different levels and sectors. That's one. Second, I know that our relations with countries of Central Asia and the Caucasus are strong and good enough. Maybe on the business side, having a third party in very specific cases can be useful. When it comes to aid, it can, because we are always short of resources. And we have so many examples of trilateral. Now, when I was in Kazakhstan, that was 15 years ago, it was a nice project with USAID in the Aral Sea. So there are many good examples of successful cooperation. That's not a problem. But when you're talking about business, my experience with the business community, at least the Israeli side, is that they want to get to the money quick, simple, and make it simple. So sometimes, not sometimes, in many cases, even bilateral discussion is not easy. If you have trilateral, it makes it more complicated. But here, I think that there is the added value with having the UAE as a third party can come in two ways. One, in the financing of projects and finance insurance, which is an issue for Israel, and financing with the local market in Central Asia, in the Caucasus, is also not an easy exercise. There are many interesting projects. So finance is one thing. And the other one is markets or access to markets in some specific cases. I look now, I'm dealing with Serbia, so it's not CIS or Caucasus, but definitely the UAE is involved in Serbia, and Israel is involved in Serbia in food production and agriculture. So there are specific areas where we can do more together. But I think we should keep it on the business side. I don't see I don't see how business or aid can assist our trilateral cooperation can assist our relations with political relations with Central Asia and the Caucasus.
So if I may add, is that okay? So, sorry, you know me, Anatoly, I apologize. So again, from the grassroots, I'm not here as a political person, and I cannot speak about those macro levels. I absolutely agree with Ambassador Lotem, and just to add, you're absolutely right. It's not about startups. We're looking at a whole ecosystem. So our project works with IT tech in general, from the startups to the mature IT companies, and what Mansur was talking about, the lack of software developers, but also linkages to potential markets, etc. We also work with the food processing and beverages sector. We also work with the apparel and textile. We also, we have tourism. Tourism now is a bit in trouble during COVID, but we'll come back to that. We're looking from the top down and the bottom up. You mentioned about financing. So we are in the tech area. We are looking into legislation on startups in Uzbekistan, and also VC funding, which we worked with the IT Park and the VC Association. There's a new VC fund, the National VC Fund of Uzbekistan, that the government is setting up, which we're helping set up with experiences from around the world. We have looked in Kyrgyzstan on the legislation on financing for IT in general and VC funding, and we're going to look into the other countries. Maybe, hopefully, we can improve some of the legislation in Kazakhstan and then initiate something in Tajikistan and Turkmenistan. So we are looking from that side point of view. We do have a business enabling environment component that is working in e-commerce as well, legislation, looking into e-commerce. and some other areas. So I absolutely agree with you that it has to be a holistic look, but we're just a small project. So, you know, you guys are talking about something much bigger on a different level, and we need to fit in there somewhere.
I would be glad to see Kazmunaygas or you know, any other of the major companies in the area, in oil and gas, on which the economy is based. I mean, not all of the countries, but doing something in this direction of piloting. You know, the Israeli Innovation Authority has a very interesting program of piloting startups, which basically says that we, the government of Israel, assist an Israeli startup in piloting abroad. We take on our, I mean, all financial responsibilities and whatever, and the other just has to, which gives a big company the taste of what it means to deal with a startup. And it gives, of course, the Israelis the opportunity to get into the big industry, because all in all, you know, we're not a very big country and our industry is quite limited. Not only industry, agriculture, there are huge farms. I don't have to tell you about huge farms in Kazakhstan, which are in Uzbekistan, which we can better and you know, grow better yields and anything. But it has to come, there has to be a demand for this.
Thank you, Ambassador. And back to you, Filip. Yeah, I remember that when we first time were discussing this opportunity of working together, USAID with Israel and the Emirates, it was like kind of, you were excited about this as a concept and also as an opportunity to do things together. From your perspective, what do you think, actually, what would you expect to get from those two, the two other actors, what you don't have today as a big regional player and global player as USAID, and you are actually able to attract just any expert or any authority would be happy to work with you, World Bank, EBRD, and others. So what actually do you think the components that Israel and the Emirates could bring into the region as a positive impact that you actually lack today?
Well, I mean, again, from my grassroots bottom-up level, we talk to all donors that we are able to talk. You know, our donor coordination is quite important for our project. We talk to World Bank, we talk to IFC, EBRD, we work with ITC and EBRD and others. We're talking to the Swiss. So everybody and anybody that's working in the areas that we're working. So first is not to overstep each other. Second is, and most important, is to efficiently, effectively support the country so that they get more benefits from what we do. From UAE and Israel, it's just the beginning, what I said in the beginning. Anything they can contribute jointly. Unfortunately, we don't have a representative from Dubai or UAE today. It's a target market. Anything we can open up that market to Central Asia. Well, a lot of, you know, some companies are working, the anchor firms that we work with, the big companies that Ambassador Lotem talked about. They are working with Dubai, but there's more opportunities. Amazon is in Dubai. Hopefully, it's coming to Central Asia sometime, you know, through Russia or through Dubai. I don't know their strategic ways of working. We're trying to get people on board on eBay. So there are a lot of things that Israel and UAE can bring to the table. It's just, again, I don't know. I didn't know much about the accord and the fund. Apparently the fund is on hold now. So any either bilateral or hopefully eventually trilateral activities can be developed. Maybe a discussion can be a specific Central Asian discussion at Expo could be a beginning of something. I don't know. I mean, or bringing businesses there to kind of start the dialogue. The IT Park is quite active in Uzbekistan and hopefully the region. There's other regional players. Maybe that's something that should be, you know, on some kind of an agenda. I mean, you know, October is a few months away, so maybe that's an opportunity that we should be looking into. And like I said, anything will contribute positively to the development of Central Asia, which has great potential. And in my opinion, is a strategic location, like I said, where it is.
Thank you, Philip. And back to you, Mansur. If it would be up to you, what are the priorities for you as a person who is in charge of developing the IT park? And IT park is, again, it's the main the main center of digital development in Uzbekistan. So, what are your priorities? If it would be up to you to ask Israel and Emirates to support and to contribute to digital development, what would you expect to get from them if it was just your decision?
First of all, before I engage into my speech, I must say that all comments that were stated by my colleagues over here are correct in terms of the perspective of the development of IT sector. We are not talking here about the politics, first of all, or any macro issues or problems. We are set here to develop an educational and business opportunities first and foremost for participants of our relative markets. In that regard, I will emphasize more on what we are looking forward to. For this specific year, we have a target of $50 million generated by the export of our companies. But unfortunately, we don't have enough expertise that would shine more light for our resident companies, which are 460 active IT companies in Uzbekistan that works moreover than 18 directions in the IT sector. If one of your colleagues are interested, I can share with you the information in terms of what companies we are having right now, what their directions, specific priorities, products, and how they can contribute to the world economy through outsourcing or outstaffing, which also our priorities right now is a leading sector in the Central Asia. But they don't have a grasp of what it is, international commercial relationships, how to pitch themselves rightfully, how to deliver their very good product. I might say there are lots of cases when there is a brilliant idea and there is a wonderful product already in use domestically, but they don't have capacity and any idea in terms of how to promote it internationally. For that reason, they are paying tremendous amount of money for people that just want to, get those check covered and then forget about the client in Uzbekistan, because we are a country of the third world, which is not very acceptable for us. And lots of people, by hearing STAN, also put a label on us that we are not quite competent, and working with us means that they will spend money, efforts, and that won't bring anything to the table, which is wrong. And we are working on our media perception in the West by doing those kind of international projects. But we need to educate our residents how to promote themselves on the international market first. It also connects to my speech about the education problem and progress that we're making right now. We are expecting to have a help in terms of the mentorship, acceleration, incubation programs, which Israel operates, Emirates also do that, to bring as a partner to the IT Parks program in the same regard, that to create a joint venture program that USAID is quite experienced by working with us, and that will bring fruits to the table that later will be promoted, purchased, and implemented, and yada, yada, yada. So basically, we need tools to build our potential. That's first thing in terms of the education. Second one, if you open up a website of any large-scale international IT company or a company that works with the implementation of putting right now map dots on their websites, and there is no mention of Central Asia at all. It's just a big void on the map that majority of companies want to pass aside, put aside, and don't even consider that as an option. But as Filip said, we are a lockdown land country, land state that surrounded by other landed bodies, and we have no direction to any oceans or something. So in that regard, we on the government level consider IT as one of the main priorities beyond any macro or microeconomic potentials and benefits that we're having right now. So let me sum up. First of all, we need tools to grow our potential in education and in terms of the international promotion through mentors, incubators, accelerator programs, or master classes from our partners in Israel and other countries. And second one, we are accepting the help in terms of the bringing in companies into our fold for opening their international branches on the territory of Republic of Uzbekistan, because we are located in the center, which means that by having an office in Tashkent, you will be able to cover all Central Asian region first. Secondly, we provide tax haven for our residents. So any international company will come to Uzbekistan and have a registration as an Uzbek company. And after that, they can apply for the residency in IT Park. And after they receive this status, they will be levied from any taxes. So basically, we are a launching stage and a launching platform for any international organization that's looking forward to Russia, Afghanistan, China, or Europe. So basically, we like Elon Musk and SpaceX for the rest of the world with our tax initiative. So basically, we are welcome international companies, but if you have links to the companies who wants to outsource out staff or have a small branch on the territory of the Central Asia, specifically connected to the IT products and game development specifically, we are ready to provide any possible services and opportunities for very smooth and potential opening and operations on the territory of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mansur. But a short follow-up. I spoke recently with a number of American companies who have opened their offices in Tashkent, and they have no problems with all these bureaucracies that you described because it's actually been resolved. But they have problems with actually with hiring people, because people prefer to work remotely for Uzbek nationals who opened companies in, let's say, in the States, rather than in some companies that opened their offices in Tashkent, but there is some issue that
you see, they won't leave country. They want to leave the country by using this legal opportunity of job transfer.
I see.
And that's the brain drain problem that I mentioned. It's just a small portion of this big iceberg. But you see, all right, for example, they want to apply for American office from Tashkent to be launched over there, but they don't have quite a good knowledge base that to be transferred over there. That's the problem. And that's why we are saying, guys, you don't need to go over there to have a good life, to have a good salary. We are providing you with the tools, with the educational programs. Just keep learning and you will be able to work rather than a freelancer or within a company that working for outsource. And from that perspective, you can go to the other international companies and other countries itself as a worker with existing experience, rather than just jumping onto the America and winning the green card, for example.
Thank you, Mansur.
Yes, that's the problem. But please tell your partners that have companies right now in Uzbekistan with the American budget that they can apply for us in terms of the hiring issues. We will be helping them with that, with good specialists and good network of ours.
Thank you.
We are ready to help them.
Thank you. So, Sawsan, back to you. Israel, well known globally as a startup nation, and the United Arab Emirates position themselves as a digital nation. Now, what are the expectations? Let's leave the third countries. Between Israel and Emirates, what are the expectations from Emirates? What do they expect to get in this know-how or IT sphere from Israel? What kind of knowledge do they expect to get? What kind of development? What kind of leapfrog thanks to those special relations, new special relations between the countries?
So on the top list I will mention the fields, and then I will let you know what is actually the mechanism that United Arab Emirates is looking to invest in Israel or in Israeli companies. First of all, it's food safety and water safety. These are very high on the agenda. We have also energy and renewable energies. This is another topic we are looking into. And very advanced technologies. That means that it's not in a very, very beginning steps of a startup, but the company has produced already a product that is that is working well, and it's actually something that can have access to a market, and now it's bringing it up, scaling it up to a level of a global market. So for such kind of technologies and Israeli companies, United Arab Emirates is looking for, and this is by very attractive options or deals for trying to bring or open branches, register these companies in United Arab Emirates, producing there and opening it for a regional market or for a global market. We shouldn't forget also that United Arab Emirates is a big hub for shipping and for aviation. So this is a huge benefit as well for Israeli companies, and also an access for other third countries that with some of them Israel doesn't have direct or diplomatic relations. So this is another benefit that the Israeli companies are looking for. We shouldn't forget as well that we have Bahrain. It's a different economy, it's a different market, different interests, but still it's the neighboring country to United Arab Emirates, in which we are as well looking into joint investments. Other fields of cooperation, cyber and fintech. They're really important for both countries, and I believe we both have a lot to contribute to each other's and to the region. Something else that I'd like to refer to, mentioning ecosystems. This is something that both countries are trying now to work on, and to have joint cooperation between the two ecosystems in the two states, building the one in United Arab Emirates. Going through what Mansur just mentioned, this process of training, Israel has experience of decades on this topic, and I believe that having such kind of education from very early age in schools and in different frames that we supply our young generation, this is something that became a model of projects that we have. There's a lot of interest from different countries in it, and also from United Arab Emirates. So these are in general the fields of cooperation and the way that Emirati companies, funds are looking into investing in the Israeli in Israel, and in attracting Israeli companies to Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and later also to the other Emirates.
Thank you. And Ambassador Lotem, I would like to ask you again, from your experience working as an Israeli ambassador in some of those countries, my feeling is that sometimes people in those countries, especially of authorities, think that Israel is able to do some magic. And in some spheres, in some fields, I remember also some meetings and with the President Peres in the region, and the admiration that people had towards him. But from your experience working in this region, what are the expectations from, for example, in Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan? Even I understand that it was maybe 15 years ago, but what they expected from Israel to assist them with? I mean, agriculture, we know. What else? What actually do they want?
The expectations are there in many different fields and areas. I think that, from my experience in this region, which goes, I guess, to many other different regions as well, I appreciate very much the work of Mashav, USAID, and other agencies. But I think that in order to get a faster change, not a real change, but a faster, someone has to pay. And, I took a delegation from an Asian country, to a company in Israel with a proven experience, which offered a very simple and attractive deal. For $50 million over 3 years to take 20 IPs from the Weizmann Institute, to bring them over there. And in 3 years, they commit to grow 20 companies, not startups, but producing companies. I think that for $50 million, for maybe some businessmen, it's big money, but to many businessmen and governments in the area, it's not that big. So I think that committing resources is a must in any area. Otherwise, you expect countries to give you grants and presents, and it's nice to have, but only in addition. Even in the Israeli economy, the Innovation Authority, which basically gives grants up to 75%, accounts for 1% of the ecosystem in Israel, of the startup ecosystem. Because all other is private and institutional money. But I think this has to be grown in the area. And once it will be there, I'm sure Israelis will be more than happy to run and cooperate, because there are no language barriers, no mentality or cultural barriers. We see the opportunity. I spent a few years also in Russia, so I know exactly how nice Uzbek agricultural products are sold for in Moscow and St. Pete. So we don't have necessarily to talk about, satellites and rockets. Sometimes good agriculture is also a good source of money. But I wish, and I want to see the director generals, the owners of companies, governments, put money, put resources in order to buy knowledge, because that commits themselves to something. Otherwise, you ask, it's nice to have, I'm not sure that it does the job.
Thank you. And Filip, I would like to ask you, we were discussing here investments and collaborations, but each one of you mentioned the education. And I think that education is a key. And I also agree with Mansur, and we know that in Uzbekistan, we know Tashkent State University, we know Inha University, we know Aga Khan Academy that is active in 3 countries of Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan. But when you look on the educational level, do you think that maybe also it would be worth to think on a collaboration with academic institutions in Israel, for example, to contribute to a wholesale education level in the region that you work in, I mean, in Central Asia? Or you think that we need only investments, companies, jobs creation, and the education level is sufficient?
Well, I mean, the investors will need employees, so education is quite important, what Mansur was talking about. Actually, there is a new initiative, IT Academy. I'm sure Mansur can talk about it more, with locally developing a new academy, which is a great idea. So that's another investment that's needed in education. They are looking to connect to a viable IT university from around the world. Could be an Israeli one, why not? So that's a need and reality right now. So if you call me tomorrow, we'll connect you, or Mansur will connect you to the guys, and that's a connection that can be made tomorrow. So absolutely, education is needed. And also, just to come back to Ambassador Lotem's comment about funding, I absolutely agree. I don't think I've never been I've worked for donor programs for USAID for over 25 years. There's no free lunch, and there shouldn't be free lunch. And there is no free lunch. Our small project is all co-funded. Any activity has to be at least 50% co-funded, and obviously Mansur can say for the activities we do with the IT Park. It should be an investment from theirs. It should be a strategy of theirs. We should not be the leader. It's their strategy. They have to have the vision. If we have any chance of sustaining what we do, it has to be something developed by them, not pushed by us, by the donors. So absolutely agree. So from the investments we're looking for to a simple training and education. It has to be from the grassroots, and 100% agree what was said. So, but again, here, you know, it's a chicken and the egg. We want regions like this to be developed so our businesses come. Well, it's not going to happen like that. I think they need the best practices from around the world. I think they need these companies to come and help somehow to develop that. We need the fintech companies, we need the ag tech companies, the food tech companies. You know, it just doesn't happen like this. Like Mansur was saying, there are great ideas, but there are nascent. We need those experiences from the mentors, just a simple mentorship. We used to do this in Ukraine, for example, and the Western Balkans. The mentorship you get from ecosystems like Sweden, London, the US, Israel, etc., is totally different than anything. It's a cultural change that we were talking about. So if our businesses wait until, you know, the chicken has hatched, I think it might be too late. Somebody else will be here to you know, develop the business cooperations and the investments. So that's my personal opinion.
We have to wrap up. And thank you for all our guests and for the speakers. And again, I hope that this the Abraham Accords that started as a regional agreement between 2 countries or 3 countries will evolve to become a global initiative that will contribute to the global security and also to global prosperity. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.